When I head to neighboring Uganda, where security forces have shot dead a Muslim cleric accused of working with an armed group linked to suicide bombings in the capital, Kampala. Officials said Sheikh Mohammed Abbas Kirevu had recruited for cells run by the Allied Democratic Forces rebels who have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group. It was killed just outside Kampala. At least 4 people were killed by attackers on motorbikes who blew themselves up in the city on Tuesday. Joining us tonight on NC Continental Prime to discuss the security situation in Kenya, Uganda and Ethiopia is Paul Ejime, an international media and communication specialist based in London, United Kingdom. Hello, good evening to you, Paul. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone.
Now, Paul, the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the 2 separate suicide attacks that killed 3 people and injured 36 in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Is Uganda a new terror battleground?
Well, I think in the war against terror, everybody is a target. And hence the need for international coalition. Because they don't seem to respect any boundaries. They are looking for, lines of least resistance, as they say. So if you come against them in one particular place, they now find how they can, escape from the net. And that is what is happening. And Uganda is surrounded by neighbors that are also volatile and vulnerable. And so this is what has happened. Somalia is there, Kenya is there because they feel that Al-Shabaab, for instance, thinks that Kenya is supporting, is fighting in Somalia against them, and so on and so forth. So ISIS has also now, they have their West African cell. What about East Africa? North Africa, everywhere. So that is the danger, and hence the need for all hands to be on deck to fight this, because it's an international,
it's not just restricted to East Africa. And I'm happy you mentioned that the involvement of Kenya's neighbors and how the Horn of Africa region is very important. Now, from Ethiopia to Sudan, the Horn of Africa and Somalia have become recently a troubled region. How does this crisis impact stability of the region? What are the implications of all these pockets of violence happening in these Horn of African countries?
Well, you have to recognize the symbiotic relationship between security and development. If there is no security and peace, if there is no security, you cannot have peace, you cannot have economic development. There is development, actually, everything is stalled. And there is that's a linkage. So, and that is the reason every country will have to fight that. And not just the country that has been targeted, but starting with the neighbor. Is a conference that then you move across there from neighbor to regional, continental, and then it becomes an international affair. So that is how to address it. But national governments on their own must be able to nip some problems in the bud before they become a continental or regional issue. And so by addressing those forces or factors that give rise to discontentment or, marginalization or exclusion, or the kind of things that people, the anger and hunger, as it were, because some people do not have food. If they go for a very long time without food on their table, it can move into anger. Forget that some of these things can also have some religious ideology and whatever. But there are social political factors that are also fueling or, facilitating this. All this must be addressed. Otherwise, the world will remain in this problem. America has talked about this war against terror. For how long have they been fighting now? Is it that when you chase them from the east, they go to the west. When you chase them and from the west, they go to the north. So it has become everybody's business and must be a collective responsibility to
now,
fight
Paul,
terror across the...
Paul, I'm happy you mentioned some of the reasons why people decide to take up arms with the government and the government's role, for example, in, in addressing some of the issues and grievances that some of these actors might have. But it's not in every situation that you do negotiate with terrorists. I mean, you have people that have decided to take arms against the state, like what's happening with the ADF in Uganda at this point. Is the war against terror winnable when you have groups that are not even targeting, state structures or things that represent the state? They just hit soft targets. They want to kill as many people as possible. You don't negotiate with those kind of people. And is it winnable? And you can have diplomatic solutions to this sort of thing. So what do you do in such a situation?
Benga, is easier said than done. I mean, the Americans will tell you that they didn't want to negotiate with the Taliban. But after 20 years in Afghanistan, what has happened? You have to now deal with the same Taliban that you went to chase out of government 20 years ago. And by the way, if you refuse to negotiate, what happens? Everything that will not end with kinetics, with fighting, killing people. And at the end of the day, wars end on the negotiating table. So why don't you start with that and not allow, how many people will be killed before you now realize that you can negotiate? The point is, I take your point that there are certain people that criminals, should be dealt with according to law. But also by fighting them and going against them or using sledgehammer or machine gun against a mosquito, that will not solve the problem. You see, you mentioned Ethiopia. Ethiopia, a year ago, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had thought that it was easy. It was a walk in the park that was going to just finish the Tigray rebels. But where is it today? The war has, it's now headed. The Amara people are there, or Oromo people are there.
It's more complicated than initially anticipated.
Yes, there is contingent. The theory, those who believe in that they know they seem to learn or seem to imitate what has happened in one area. So if you do not, terror also works with that if they see that in one area, they can replicate what has happened here in another place. So that is the reason it has to be an integrated approach.